Hey y'all, this is Jovana here. I'm here with my sister today on Tuesday's podcast. We're publishing a book today, so be on the lookout for that in our community post. And this podcast is directed towards the community post we made 3 days ago. That we made 3 days ago about Namu's birth. Take myself out a little bit. So, Mary. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I want you to be as honest as possible, okay?
All right.
Alright. So the first question is, what is the story of Yaya and Gugu pregnancy begins?
Well, on August 28th, 2017, when I was 13, I created a document of a story called Yaya and Gugu Pregnancy Begins. It was about Yaya and Gugu as adults married and having a baby boy who I didn't name.
Okay.
This was during my hypersexual years after being traumatized when I was 8, but during this time I also did not know I was traumatized, and this was the reason for, my unexcusable behavior. The story was graphic in details, and I didn't have much thought for it, as if I was just like writing it just to sexually gratify myself.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't the case. I made the story fairly for fun, and I made it to shock you and Abby.
I ain't gonna lie, it fucking works.
Yeah. But anyway, the story starts with a third person omniscient perspective talking about a character I made up years prior, a country girl character. Her name was South Korea, and also wrote how she could find anything out even if her character was away from home. All right, then I proceeded to write the Gugu and Yaya were not ready yet, but they decided to have a baby. And also in the story, I made it clear that Yaya didn't want to have sex with her husband because she was still a virgin, and it will remain that way until her and Gugu gets to business.
Okay.
So the fucked up thing, in my opinion, this was one of the two fucked up things. The fucked up thing, in my opinion, that I wrote was that Gugu and Yaya would be executed, killed, destroyed, eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
If Asia, the continent girl, or South Korea, the country girl, found out that they had a baby. Because back then, during these years, and I made country girls, I made the country girls have strict and prohibited laws towards the characters. So the thing is, the characters can break any law that they want and not get held with consequences. But as far as reproducing, that was actually one of the main things that was prohibited. So that's why I wrote it, and it's kind of fucked up. But then when I look back on it, I'm like, well, there are some places in the world where people are killed for having children, in certain countries. So I was like, well, that ain't a big deal, but it is still kind of fucked up that I was 13 and I was writing stuff like this. And then, unfortunately, despite all this, it led Gugu to pretty much forcing Yaya and then pressuring her, like she kind of like peer pressure to have sex with him and to have a kid.
So like rape.
Kind of like rape, but I didn't think at that time. I didn't think of it as rape. But when I read this document, I looked it up. What is it called when a husband rapes his wife or a wife rapes her husband? It's called marital rape, and it's a crime in some states in the United States.
Yeah.
And it's actually illegal in some parts of the world. And it's kind of fucked up that I even wrote some shit like that. But there's a total of 6 chapters, and with chapter 2 all set, this is where a sexually explicit comes into play. However, it was a short chapter, so I don't even know if I would label it as that. So Gugu goes to the store to buy some condoms, and then he starts to second guess himself. Like, okay, yeah, he was ready to be a dad, but he was never sure if Yaya was ready to be a mom. And obviously at that time he didn't really give a fuck, so he bought the condoms anyway. So then we have Yaya sitting at home, and she was waiting for Gugu to come back so she can go ahead and hurry up and get this goddamn situation over with. And besides condoms, Trojan was the brand. It's pretty much a popular brand amongst intimate individuals. And they had sex. They finally fucked. Oh my goodness! All right, and then here's the two fucked up things that I wrote. Uh, I wrote that Yaya told Gugu to stop and that it was hurting, and he obviously refused to stop. And this, didn't like make Yaya scream or cry or anything. She just ended up liking sex. So that could be another reason why Yaya, as a character, why developed the way that she is now. I mean, despite the shitpost series, before I edit some of the stuff out to make it more ad friendly and more TV 14, uh, you know, obviously, you have episodes like Vibrating Bullet and then Seductive Yaya and I'm Pregnant, and then you have a perfect couple, and you have and no, oh, don't forget fucking Namu. Don't forget Namu, and then don't forget I Take the Dead, where Yaya was rubbing up all against Gugu, her husband. That explains her behavior. Now, unfortunately, I no longer act hypersexual. I found out what traumatized me and I ended up getting it fixed. So I no longer act hypersexual. However, to maintain my maturity, I do still make sex jokes here and there, but they're not as excessive as they was when I was, 13 to 7 to 18 and I was, writing shit like this. All right? So, back on track, they did this for some time, and if you fast forward to a couple of months later, at least 2 months later, they went to the fertility doctor, who I never named, where Gugu started to regret his actions, and he obviously became worried that he got Yaya pregnant. Now, that was just the bulk of it. The rest of the story is very vague, and I can't go over that shit again. It's too cringy. All right, but at the end, Yaya got taken away by South Korean officials to be executed, and Gugu got his wiener cut off. He got castrated, and I don't even know what happened to the baby. I don't know if Gugu kept the baby. I don't know if South Korea also killed the baby. I don't know because I didn't write that. I never wrote that. It hurts though. It really does.
Wow. So, what was the point of the story?
Unfortunately, I never made a point to the story. There wasn't a point. But if I had to make up a point now, it would be as characters who are famous, it doesn't matter how much freedom you get, or you can commit crimes and not get in trouble, that certain things are still restricted and prohibited. And back then, when I was 13, I did not have this perspective. Again, like I said before, I wrote it purely for fun. I didn't write it to like turn myself on, and I didn't write it to sexually gratify anyone else. Obviously, because guess what, guys? I never published this. I never did. The documents that I have written in my OneDrive, I never published. These documents, they come from 12 and 13 and 14-year-old me. I never published these documents. I never showed these documents to anyone. In fact, one of the documents that I written titled Group Party was so disgustingly vile, I don't even think I want to even say it.
Yeah.
But I'm not even going to give no hints, but it was gross. And this was times when I was a child. I was a kid. And this was the time while I was a child, I was a kid. I was a sex addict. Everything with me was sex, 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 sex. I can remember that I would try to get a boyfriend, you know, and to have sex because that's what I was. But thankfully, about 6 years later from that, 8 years later 10 years later from when I was 8, I finally found out why I was acting like that. And it was because the exposure of pornography from the My Little Pony community, which me and the kids in my generation wasn't even looking for. That affected us.
Yeah.
It affected us deeply. They had Catch Teeny Ping is a very new show. I love Catch Teeny Ping. Okay, the toys are expensive as fuck, but hey, I don't care. I still want it. If I have one, I adore it. If I have two, I freaking love it. They have people who are drawing porn of these teeny pings from Catch Teeny Ping, and this was in, I want to say, the season 3 window, and this was on Twitter. I ran across this looking for teeny ping pictures to like, teeny ping updates, see if there's any new teeny pings.
Yeah.
Season 3 isn't released on Netflix in America yet, but it is in South Korea, and they have the full episodes. I think, I don't know if they're still uploaded, but they have the full episodes on the official Catch Teeny Ping channel. And one of these, and the first time I viewed it, it was Sweet Pink and Heavy Pink, and I started crying because I was like, what the fuck? When -8 first drew Cheer Ping,
yeah,
when he first drew Cheer Ping, it wasn't nothing sexual or nothing. It was just a regular drawing. I started shedding tears. The second time I started shedding tears is when I saw someone draw Sweet Ping and Heavy Ping engaging in gay sex. And I was like, this hurts.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's the internet. People's going to take and do whatever the fuck they want, because guess what? I was once those people. People are going to take and do whatever they want without any consideration for others. But the reason why I cried is because something that I loved, something that I enjoyed was ruined, and it was something that was meant to be innocent that was made into something perverse. Another image that I saw of Catch Teeny Ping porn on Twitter was one of a stick ping. You know, she's a yellow teeny ping with I think that was like a glue stick as her prop. Another one of her fucking her prop. And get this, it was well done. The drawing was well done.
Wow.
It wasn't no shitty drawing like the Tweet Ping or Heavy Ping one. It was a great drawing. Like, her genitalia was exposed and everything. And I couldn't fucking believe this. I was disgusted.
Yeah.
And if I haven't been baptized and I still lived the same life I lived before Easter.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be on here talking about how much that disgusted me. Because I would have actually liked it. Because I would have still been in that window.
Yeah.
And that was disgusting. How people in the teeny ping community who could be potentially minors were talking about shipping teeny pings with other teeny pings, and most of these teeny pings that they were talking about shipping with were fucking girls. Most of the teeny ping are girls. There are boy teeny pings there. You have Trust Ping from season 2, who's royal. You have True Ping from season 3, who is royal, and then you have Go Ping and Dada Ping from season 1, who was royal. They could have shipped these female teeny pings with anyone that was male, but unfortunately, homosexuality is viewed as so damn normal that they'll take and taint a straight TV series with that. Disney, I don't really care about Disney. I'm just there for the fairy tales, but Disney started making shows introducing gay and bi characters. But then again, Walt Disney was a Freemason. He was a Freemason. So it would make sense why he would do that.
Yeah.
It would make sense why he would do that. But we and when I speak as we, I speak as the human population. We as humans know how to take something so innocent, regardless if it's made for kids or for adults. We know how to take something that is so innocent, and we know how to make it vile. We know how to make it violent. We know how to make it sexual. And just by talking about this, it hurts me. Because when I wrote Yaya and Gilgit Pregnancy Begins, now I think about it, I was one of those people. I took something that helped me to learn Korean, that was for children as a child, and I fucking tainted it. And I'm unfortunately with Yaya and Google, I'm not getting no better because Taker and Goot Boy exists, and now half my subscribers they want Taker and Goot Boy. They don't care about regular Google and Yaya anymore. They're used to Taker and Goot Boy now, and it's me. I got them used to that. I had to change. I couldn't just let Yaya Land Scary Mansion hang there. I can't allow what happened in the AMG server affect me for the rest of my life. I can't just abandon what I created just because a small group of people hates me or hated what I did, or believed whatever false information about the mod was said to them. I can't allow that. That's why I made Gugu and Yaya to take her and Goot Boy.
Right.
But I solely, back to the point of the Yaya and Gugu pregnancy begins. I wrote it because I felt like writing it.
Okay.
But at the same time, as a 19-year-old, it actually hurts to read. And it hurts to even know that, it hurts to know that I was 13 when I did this, and I wasn't even in high school yet.
Yeah.
And I was writing these kind of content. I was into this kind of content.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I feel bad for my generation because when you act off a trauma, this doesn't give an excuse to like pedophilia and child molestation, but it gives an excuse to us because we didn't go that far as to wanting to have sex with little children or wanting to molest little children. We didn't, or looking at kids on the internet. We didn't go that fucking far. Most of us who was traumatized by the brony community that we never asked to be a part of, we would enjoy My Little Pony porn. It will be a constant thing that I personally will look up. It'll be a constant thing that you see and it still goes on. Because if you type in, my favorite My Little Pony character at the time was Rainbow Dash. If you type in Rainbow Dash, you will see in about 30 seconds to a minute, you will see some either provocative image of Rainbow Dash, or you're going to see a sexually explicit photo of Rainbow Dash. And that's how we were exposed. We was looking up My Little Pony characters just to draw, or just to color, or just My Little Pony color pages, and then boom, pony tits in your face, pony dick in your face, pony ass in your face. And we did not ask for this.
Yeah.
We didn't. And it angers me how I was 13 and I was writing this shit. I wasn't even the age to get a job in the state that I live in.
Right.
I'm not even old enough to get a job. I wasn't old enough to drink. I wasn't even old enough to get a fucking permit to drive. And this is what I was doing. And the crazy thing is, I thought I know a lot about sex. Dude, I didn't even know that pre-cum.
Yeah.
The clear fluid that comes out before the guy ejaculates, I didn't even know if that goes inside of a woman, the woman still had the potential to get pregnant. I didn't know that back then. In fact, I found that out while I was 18.
Damn.
Condoms? You know how in sex ed they'll teach us about like safe sex and stuff like that? Condoms do not prevent STDs.
Oh.
They don't, because the condom can slip off, it can break. And we didn't know this when we were hypersexual like we were when we were kids. We didn't know any of this.
Ouch.
And
Calm down.
and it's
I know you're Mary. Listen. I'm making this podcast for a reason. Because how do you go from making something so vile as a 13-year-old child to something so heartwarming and touching and still mature as a 19-year-old? How do you?
I don't know, it's magic, I guess.
Okay. So there isn't a point to Yaya and Yugi pregnancy begins?
There isn't a point, Neutral. There will never be a point. There'll never be a point. There's not a point. There's not a lesson. I didn't make one when I was a kid. And it fucking hurts.
Mm-hmm.
It really do hurt. Because why did I still question myself to this day. Even though I found out I was traumatized, why did I have to find out this shit so damn later on in life? You're telling me that you'd let us go up until the day we die doing all this sin, all this sinful acts and perverse acts as children and young teenagers and young adults and adults and senior citizens without actually letting know?
Yeah. Mm-mm-mm.
And I'm more upset because it seems like the things that I enjoy the most are the ones are the ones that's getting targeted. When Nickelodeon, there were people that working at Nickelodeon who drew pornographic images of SpongeBob. It was called Behind Closed Doors. They drew pornographic images of SpongeBob and SpongeBob characters engaging in all kinds of sexual activity. And you want to know why I looked the other way? Because I already saw pornography of fucking SpongeBob before that shit was even came out. I already saw that. The internet beat them to the punch.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have people who read SpongeBob pornographic fanfics on YouTube all the time. At one point, I read one. And even though I laughed at it, it wasn't fucking funny. Because that was something that I liked.
Yeah.
That was something that I liked. I still watch SpongeBob. I am a grown woman, and I still watch SpongeBob. Yesterday I was sitting at the table and I was watching my favorite shows when I was a little girl, when I was 3 and 4 years old. I'm 19 and I watched Sesame Street. I watch Goo Goo and Yaya. I still watch Nick Jr. cartoons like Team Mizumi and Nihao Kailan. It's because that and how I look at it, it's because I didn't get to enjoy the things that were ruined for me. It had nothing to do with my family. It had nothing to do with me. We was living in the era of the internet. Lauren Foss worked so hard to make a show like this for little girls, and then grown ass men ruins it. There's pornography of Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion on Twitter. I had to go on Twitter and block at least, I want to say 15 accounts because they drew porn of fucking Spooky. Obviously, I wasn't thinking about the drama, but I just didn't want to fucking see that. I can't even enjoy Akuma Kira and Sheena's game without getting bombarded with Spooky getting fucked or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do it.
Well, I understand. I understand. It was just your way. When you did all this stuff when you were a kid, it was just your way of coping. It was not normal. It wasn't normal what you were doing. It wasn't normal what you were doing. But it seemed like such a normal thing. Y'all yet did it. Even when your parents will tell you guys, don't do this, don't do that, don't do the other, or that's wrong. Some of you guys, this is why I tell parents in today's too. Like when we watch Chris Hansen, this is why I would tell parents too. Sit down with your kids and talk to your kids. Because you'll have children like Emanuela who Olympic tunes who would post this kind of pornography, whether it's censored or not, who would post that kind of content, and their audience is majority kids. Emanuela could potentially went through the same is potentially going through the same exact thing that you were going through. She wanted to enjoy a show that she adored and she loved so much, only to get bombarded with porn. I was doing a little bit of research on Mirai Toa and Samaiti the other day, the Japanese Olympic mascots, and I've seen some porn, some censored porn, and it was on DeviantArt because we have a DeviantArt. Yaya and the Scary Magic, go follow us there; it's pretty nice. But we have that. I saw that, and I was like, what the fuck? And I don't even know how old they're robots. I don't even know how old they are, which was the bigger question because unfortunately, age is such a thing now. Everything's about age, 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 age. Mary, let me tell you something. You'll have people that are like you that drew porn, that looked at porn, that wrote porn to fucking cope with trauma. You'll have people like you, and then you'll have people who would do it just for the fucking hell of it. They weren't traumatized. They were raised in a Christian household. And they weren't traumatized or any of that, like y'all say, and they'll still do it anyway. And you know what though, Mary? Believe it or not, it's a good thing that I'm sitting up here talking to you about this. Because I always wondered why you were so fucking sexual. I always wondered why you always drew porn. And you will come up with 101 excuses, oh, -8 inspired me, or I want to, or this or the other. And the truth is, you were traumatized, and this was your way of fucking coping. And I've been getting you the help that you deserve. I hope everyone out there who was born in 2003 or 2004, who you grew up in the My Little Pony era, who was fucking traumatized, I hope y'all get the help that y'all need too. But you know what? It's not that y'all need, that y'all deserve. Because if this shit continues going on, we don't know what will happen. For all we know, somebody could be out there just from trauma going molesting a child. Or some of them are even so damn sick in the head that they'll, not sick as in like perverted or disgusting, but some of them are sick in the head, like ill, that they'll go ahead and marry one of these toys. Because I've seen stories about people marrying My Little Pony characters, and it's fucking disgusting. They'll never get a bitch because they're grown ass men walking into their grave. It's disgusting. And as a 25-year-old, you might as well say, because my birthday's this month, as a 25-year-old, it's great that I'm sitting up here talking about this to you. But let's go ahead and back on the subject now for what the people got. What elements did you use to make mature content? Sex, violence, drugs, everything that was just vile. Vile? Yes. What kind of, okay, so did you have any documents back then that you wrote that included at least one that included one or three elements that's not about pregnancy? Um, I remember the creepypasta Crying's Bad Side. That was the only story that I published. Really? Crying's Bad Side?
Yeah.
What's that about?
I don't remember, but I can tell you that it was. I could tell you a little synopsis from bits and pieces of memory that I have of it. Crying's Bad Side was a creepypasta story that I written that I got in trouble for being bullied in school, and I snapped and I kicked one of my classmates' ass. And I went home, I got a beating, and that was it. And then I was just started killing my family, like angry and neutral, and Chorobada. But I think Chorobada committed suicide. But I did kill Angry. I forgot how I killed Angry. I think I shot her or something. But I'll remember how I killed Angry. But I remember I killed Neutral by poisoning her food. The Chorobada died by suicide. But that wasn't all. I also made a story called I'm So Sorry, My Little Love. And that was a Gugu Gaia creepypasta that I made too. It came out before, I believe, before Krang's Bad Side. And it's when Yaya took and murdered Gugu. And she cut open his stomach and tore out his intestines and all that. And she hung herself. It was another suicide story. It was a murder suicide type story. And my target audience, I didn't know what a target audience was back then, but I knew what I was writing was not for children, it was for grown-ups.
Okay. How old were you when you wrote the story?
I believe I was 14. I don't know. I could pull up the document when I created it and then use an age calculator, but I don't remember. I think I was 13. I think I was 14. However, when I wrote this, I knew I was going to high school, so I was between the ages of 13 and 15.
Okay. So these are the kind of elements you used to use?
Yeah, I used to use that.
Okay. Now, let's try to lighten the mood here. Because this is a great story. I read the story like literally 3 times. That's how great the story is. What is Namu's birth about?
Namu's birth is about Yaya Scary Mansion, Gugu and Yaya having sex and conceiving a baby, except this time it wasn't as graphic as it was with Yaya and Gugu Pregnancy Begins. In fact, if you read it, and you understand word for word, you knew that in basic terms I was saying they had sex. I didn't put, oh, Yaya was moaning and Gugu came inside, and I didn't put none of that. It was they got drunk of at the island Scary Mansion celebration. They got drunk. They were married. Plus, this took place in the early 2000s. I mean, late 2000s, so like 2007, 2008 sometime. Which at that time they were 20, which means that when Namu was older, they were actually in their 30s. Like an actual parents. It's considered adult fiction.
Okay.
Um, they got drunk. They smashed. Woke up next day wondering what happened. Yaya takes a pregnancy test days prior of the intimacy, and she's pregnant. And then the whole entire story goes on from there, saying they were in the mansion for a little while, and they decided to go to the doctor. And then when they returned and say, "Oh yeah, the baby is definitely Gugu's," they returned to the mansion only to be met with one of the spirit catchers practically kicking them out of the mansion, saying that the baby that Yaya is conceiving should not be born in a violent environment, which is Spooky's Mansion is considered a violent environment because our job there is to kill players.
Yes.
All right. So then Gugu and Yaya moved to a little small cabin in Yaya Land where they would, spend their nights there and whatnot and take different visits and all that. And then soon when Yaya was about to, give birth, she gave birth to Namu. And Namu was a cute baby. And the way I wrote it, the way I described it, it makes it bearable to read.
Yeah.
It makes it bearable to read. It wasn't unbearable like Yaya and Pregnancy Begins, where it was just straight to the point, and then it was sexual, and it was just death. It wasn't like that. It was actually bearable to read.
Okay.
Um, and then the rest of the story goes on about Namu taking her first steps, and her favorite word was Babu. And I got that from Milk from Cinema Roll, because Cinema Roll, little brother Milk, always says Babu. And it goes from her being a baby to being 6 years old when she was in the first grade to being the best student in her class. And it goes from 6 to, I want to say, 12, 11 or 12 sometime. And it's when, teacher conference and all that happened. And then go to the 14th, and she ended up, getting a scholarship. But I didn't put that in the story. But she ended up assuming she got a scholarship. And she ended up going to college only at 14 years old. And then with Namu being, off to college at such a young age, it was a beautiful sight. And Gugu and Yaya said they weren't going to make another baby. And that story, ironically, was published on Labor Day on Wattpad.
Okay. So that sounds a beautiful story. So what was the intended outcome of that story, Namu's birth?
The intended outcome was really targeted towards adults, but I didn't make an outcome of the story. But I mean,
Well, I mean, my intended outcome. Do you receive? Do you expect to receive good feedback, awesome feedback, bad feedback? What kind of like with Yaya and Scary Mansion? Like, what was your intentions?
my intentions with this story was just to write it and just to remaster something that I did when I was 13 and make it more bearable and more heartwarming and less graphic and less mature. Still mature but less graphic. You know, and a lot of my stories now have very few cuss words in them. So like it's very rare now you're gonna see a story with fuck in it, especially that because I know in season 7 and the rest of the Taker and Goop Boy shit posts, we're not going to be cussing anymore. So that's going to be another major change. But I already discussed that before. But but I expect great feedback from it, from people who are my age and older, from people who are 18, from moms and dads alike. Because I honestly think this story would be something for a married couple to enjoy. You know, a married couple in America reading a story with their newborn child in the other room sleeping or whatever, or their kid playing with toys or whatever, and they could just be like, well, this sounded just like us, just something beautiful, nothing too graphic, nothing too vile, no explicit details of how babies are made for gratification purposes, just just something sweet, maybe a little bit harder, I don't know, but just something for people to read.
Okay.
So I do have great intentions for this story. This story is pretty nice. I like it.
Okay. So now, how can you make mature content without being violent and graphic? That's our last question. I want to know how can you make mature content without being violent and graphic?
As I age and then get older, because I'm not getting any younger. 19 is my last number of my teen years before I turn 20 next year. You can be mature and not be vile and graphic. You can be mature without showing genitals or showing boobs or people having sex. You can be mature without being so explicit about people being murdered and the way they're murdered. You can be mature without having your characters doing hard drugs like cocaine or heroin or whatever. You could be mature without being graphic. You can be mature without being disgusting. You can even be mature without cussing. But in order for something to be classified as mature and not really come off as child friendly, you have to have one of those elements. And it's okay to add those kind of elements into your shows or into your books that you're writing, but it can't be graphic. Because there's a simple line when it comes down to stuff like porn and all that. There is sex, and then there's porn. Sex is a part of life. Sex is how we got here. We got here by human reproduction. Animals got here by animal reproduction. That's sex. Porn is just sex for gratification purposes only. And sometimes porn displays sex in a way where it's not real. BDSM is deadly. People who like BDSM are possibly more at risk for injury or even death than the average sex addict would be.
Yeah.
When we talk about having sex, you could just say Gugu and Yaya are having sex and just leave it at that. But if you put Gugu sized his penis into Yaya's vagina and started thrusting slowly, then that's actually on the brink of the category of porn because they're being very explicit about it.
Yeah.
If you did what I did in Namu's birth and just say, oh, well, Gugu and Yaya, they got, you know, intimate.
Mm-hmm.
If you just do that, oh, Gugu and Yaya, they just got intimate and behold, Namu was born. then you would know that it's not for children.
Mm-hmm.
You'll know that it's not for children, but it's also readable.
True. True.
I look at it. Uh, I look at it. I look at it like this. I look at it. I look at it like this. When I was younger, now this is in comparison to me. When when I was younger, I never put much thought into what I wrote or what I did.
Mm-hmm.
I never did. When I was younger, I wrote stories that were just downright disgusting. And this was coming from a kid.
Yeah.
I even wrote on my wiki. I have my wiki pulled up. Namu's birth is the story of the birth of Namu, obviously, the child of Taker and Goot Boy. The couple who lived in the Island Scary Mansion discovered that they were expecting a child after a drunken night of intimacy during the annual Island Scary celebration. That's what it's actually called, a YSC. Yaya took a pregnancy test, confirming her pregnancy and leading to a period of doubt and uncertainty about the child's paternity. Reminder, they were drunk, so it could be a possibility that Yaya actually thought she was having sex with someone else other than her husband. With the support of the DECA squad and a fertility doctor, they learned that the child was indeed Gugu's. The story follows their journey as they prepare for their child's arrival and eventually welcome their daughter Namu into the world, celebrating the challenges and joys of parenthood. So, this story here, must I be honest, this story here is a hell of a lot different than Yaya and Gugu Pregnancy Begins. Number one, it has 10 chapters, which makes even more room rather than 6 chapters. It makes more room of the whole entire scenario to play out. Okay, so that's the first good thing. And the second good thing is, even though Gugu and Yaya were adults in A Pregnancy Begin, but Gugu and Yaya were loving adults in Namu's birth. They were actual husband and wife. And not only this took place in, again, 2007, 2008, where they were 20. So if you do it a calculator and you calculate it to 2023, you might end up with the numbers between 36 and 38.
Yeah.
They were 30 when they were in the 30s when Namu was 14 and off to college, as it should be. Because in the Taker and Good Boy shitpost now, they're 19 and 20 and Namu is 14. But in the Gugu and Yaya shitpost, when, Namu was born, when Gugu and Yaya, they were 9 and 10 years old and Namu was just born.
Yeah.
And then Namu turned 1. Gugu and Yaya was 11 and 12. And Namu's birthday is on August 13th instead of April. Because Namu is not a new character. I've been had Namu. Namu was a child of Gugu and Yaya since 2018. So really, if we look at it this way, instead of saying Namu's 3, we can say that she was born in 2018.
Yes.
Which will practically make Namu 5 years old. So she really would be 5 instead of being 3 or being 14. She would really be 5. But the reason why I'm going with Namu being 14 is because, well, 14 is, closer to my age. And I believe if Gugu and Yaya had a daughter that was in the teens, just like they are, like young adults, that have more sense to them, I look at it as a funny ass perspective. Imagine being around your mom and dad's age and smarter than your mom and dad.
That would be embarrassing as fuck.
Well, it would have been embarrassing, but it's still a great move in my opinion. I like it.
Okay.
But you can be mature. All in all, I'm a changed person. And you can be mature without being vulgar. You can be mature without being vile. You can be mature without being explicit about a lot of things. And Namu's birth is a great story in my eyes. It is a very great story. I don't know what I would do if I was like, you know what, I want to make a story, based off of what I did when I was 12, but a tad bit better, But instead of turning it into a tad bit better, it was a hell of a lot better, and I like that. And I adore people who would read the story. They're married or they're wanting to get married. I will adore people who read the story and be like, they seemed happy, so we can be too. Mm-hmm. But that's practically the story of the birth of Namu. And the story is, again, it's obviously not for children because it talks about pregnancy. It's adult fiction. It's even in my tags, and as adult fiction, it's even in my tags. And on top of that, you know how I said that that Gugu and Yaya had a baby boy that I didn't name? Mm-hmm. They had a lot of characters in Yaya and Gugu Pregnancy Begin that I didn't name. But guess what? You have characters. If you go to the wiki's unfinished, but if you go to the wiki on Under Namu's birth, you'll see that they have a list of characters from Yaya and Gugu, Namu, the Spirit Catchers, which is a lot of people already knew about them because of Yaya and Scary Mansion. Then you have Mr. Wick. That's Namu's middle school teacher. Then you have Dr. Stell, Dr. Mintz, and Dr. Vaz, which is all of them are, some kind of doctor, fertility doctor. Then you have me as crying, Koma Nunsara, my friend, and then you have Namu's first grade teacher. Yes. So the story isn't too much vague like Yaya and Gugu Pregnancy Begins. It's not that vague. Yeah. It's pretty well put and well thought out and put together. And if I were any of my adult fans out there who likes Taker and Good Boy, I would give this book a good reading, or at least look into chapter 1. Yeah. You guys would love it. But anyway, that's today's podcast. Yeah. I appreciate you being here with me, Josanna, and talking to me. This has have to be the longest podcast I ever created, ever made. I'm always here for you. If you need somebody to talk to, if you need somebody to say, hey, I need help with something, you can always talk to me. I'm your sister. I am here for you and with you for a reason. Yes? Yes. All right. Anyway, guys, thank you for listening. So that's about it. See ya.